to confirm. And you can see my slide. Okay. So thank you all for joining today morning. So as the agenda or the topic which you must have seen in the invitation. So this is to discuss to go through another innovation offer which we have brought to the market last this year. In the last couple of weeks, and we are now ramping up the range in the market. So this particular is for the as the name suggests, it's there on the slide. It's MasterPact MTZ Active ACB. I guess most of you have been familiar with the MasterPact range of breakers. We will go through the journey of ACBs. So it has been a fantastic journey for us in the LV circuit breakers, and we are happy to share that we have been more than 100 years legacy in the ACB market, and as a market leader globally in Gulf in all the clusters. It's our onus on us as a market leader, Schneider Electric, to keep on innovating and bringing new offers to the market so that we deliver more values, so that for your critical application, so that we can get great, efficient results. So to introduce myself, my name is Krishna Gutekar. I'm the product manager for the LV circuit breakers in Schneider Electric, based in Dubai for the Gulf countries. So again, as I said, it's more of a discussion topic. So if you have any queries, please post it in the chat, or at the end of the session, we can have the Q&A. So to start with, this particular one is focused on air circuit breaker, the new range which is getting into the market. Again, as I mentioned, as a market leader, the onus is on us to upgrade the specs, to upgrade not only in terms of the product catalog, some features, but practically in your applications, in your panel, in your the consultants which you are dealing, for them to deliver more values for their end users, and at the same time also to keep into loop the facility management or the maintenance people, how we can make their life more efficient, more reliable, so that they can deliver the efficient service. So on LV circuit breakers, Schneider Electric started long back in 1920. In terms of air circuit breaker, our journey started back 7 decades back with multiple ranges. I guess most of you are not familiar with it. It was DSA, DA, CellPact. You might find some applications, but most of the thing is already discontinued since it's more than 50 years back. After that, in 1987, we had a major innovation. First of all, we started our MasterPact legacy of air circuit breakers in 1987 with the MasterPact M. M was for modular because that was a modular circuit breaker at that time in 1987. And at the same time, before 1987, any air circuit breaker you find in the market was with the thermal magnetic type triplet, a basic one. So in 87, Schneider Electric as a market leader tried to lift the specs of the circuit breakers with the first air circuit breaker with an electronic type triplet, and extended the range up to 100 kiloamps and 6300 ampere. After fast forward 2 decades later, okay, before that, just to show you that the ruggedness of the product of MasterPact legacy, when we talk now in 2025, even now there are some applications in oil and gas or some mining and other industries still running on MasterPact M. So that shows the legacy of more than of even after so many decades, the breaker is running. Of course, multiple end users, because now uh, the end users are not satisfied only in terms of electronic triplet, but you need to have more digitization, more energy management, maintenance, and the other features. So over a period of time, it gets retrofitted with the latest offer, but to show the mechanical ruggedness of a product, the performance, what is delivering. So we still have couple of applications which are still running fine on MasterPack MTZ M. Fast forward 2 decades later, in 2000, we upgraded MasterPack M to MasterPack NT&W. So NT was introduced, which, as you know, I think most of you had used it or in the past couple of years or decades. It's the small circuit breaker from 630 to 600 amps. So that was introduced in 2000. Plus the electronic journey, what we started in 80s, we upgraded it. We top it up with embedded energy metering. So 2000 NTNW was the first air circuit breaker with an embedded current, voltage, energy, and later on, after a few years, we also added MicroLogic P and H, which has got embedded power monitoring with the advanced protections, harmonics metering with the power quality features, and so on. So that was again innovation brought to the market to go one step ahead in the journey. Only one difference was from M to NT and W. There is a size difference. Anyway, NT was not there, so it's basically NW and MasterPack M. So it's slightly modular compared to M. Having said that, since 2000 till now, and even in future, we will keep on having the same footprint for all the ACBs which we have today in the market. Fast forward around 1.5 decades later, we had upgraded, bring to the market another MasterPack MTZ with MicroLogic X type triplet. Now this one was with very high features because in the last, as you had seen, around 5 to 10 years, 7 years or 8 years, digitization is getting picked up very quickly. So whether you talk about not only the data centers, but even in our home, most of the things are digitized. So that's why we added more in our traditional circuit breakers, which is sitting on the LV panels, more digitization into it. So MTZ-X was with the class 1 accuracy energy metering, multiple advanced protections were put into it, which can be added digitally. So you can upload the software, and the breaker is ready for the next protection. It has got mobile applications where you can easily connect with Bluetooth, NFC, and other features were there. So MasterPack MTZ-X, which was a future ready, this was used mainly for critical applications like data centers, hospitals, premium buildings, some projects. So wherever you need a high-end features, power quality monitoring embedded inside the circuit breaker with more digitization, connectivity, wireless connectivity, or a communication protocol like Modbus, Ethernet, IEC 61850, and so on, we were having with MicroLogic X. Now, last since 5 to 7 years, there were strong feedback from our partners, from you, from different consultants that we should have also a standard version of MasterPack MTZ, so that all these key values which we are delivering today with MasterPack MTZ X or MicroLogic X can also benefit the other commercial building or industrial building or a standard hotels or standard applications also. So that is the reason this year we have extending our MasterPack footprint or a portfolio with addition of new range, which is MasterPack MTZ with a MicroLogic Active type of a triplet. Now this Active is basically an upgradation or addition to our existing MasterPack MTZ X type of a breaker. So MasterPack MTZ X is for the high-end features for high-end applications like mission critical applications, whereas MasterPack MTZ, which is ready to act, is covering all the standard applications. So what do you mean? I mean by standard applications? So wherever you don't need a power quality, let's say power quality embedded in the breaker. Of course, you can add on a power meter with the THD, with the harmonics, and so on. But embedded inside the circuit breaker, if you don't need harmonics, if you don't need advanced protections, So what are those advanced protections like reverse power, under voltage, over voltage, and so on. Then we go with the MasterPact MTZ Active as the standard one, and MasterPact MTZ Micrologic X is for the high-end application. So if I correlate with MasterPact NT and W, if it's a standard E type of a trip unit, the basic one, the mirror on that is MasterPact MTZ with Micrologic Active. If it is an NW with P and H, the higher trip unit, that mirrors into MasterPact MTZ with Micrologic X type of a trip unit. So you have a standard MTZ and an advanced MTZ range. So as I mentioned, since 2000, we tried to keep the same dimension of a product. So that whenever we upgrade or we try to keep the pace with the digitization, with the multiple innovations happening in the market. Along with those innovations or the new features adding to the product, to have minimal or no impact on our panel builders or integrators or OEM. So that's why the dimension of a product, the cutout, remains exactly same for all the ranges. So that means whether it's in MasterPact NT and W, if you have the standardized design with the cutout, everything, the same design of your panel fits exactly into MasterPact MTZ Micrologic Active. So as a reminder that in MTZ, also you have 3 frame sizes, same as MasterPact NT and W. So we have a small size breaker 630 to 600 ampere, which as a legacy we call NT. In MTZ1, to simplify, it's called as a size 1 or MTZ1. The second one, 800 to 4000 ampere, which was like a NW 800 to 4000 ampere. Here it's MTZ2. So it's a size 2 of a breaker, 800 to 4000 ampere. And the bigger size breaker like 4000B to 6300 ampere, like 4000B, 5000, 6300 amps, is size 3, MTZ3. So you have size 1, size 2, size 3, NT and W up to 4000 ampere, NW greater than 4000 ampere. So it's more simplified. So the size of the breaker remains exactly the same. The footprint, the cutout or the bus bar mounting, everything remains exactly same as today, whether it's a MasterPact NT and W or the existing MTZ Micrologic X type of breaker. Same for the performance level also, we continue the same. Only there is one small thing is in MTZ2 H1 type. Today we call it 65 kiloamps ICU, ICS, ICW fault capacities. In MTZ, same as the existing MTZ, it's a 66 kiloampere. So instead of 65, it's a 66 kiloampere, but it's a similar one. So in size 1, you have 42K, 50K and 150K. Next year, in the first half, we will also add a 66K breaker in size 1. In size 2, it starts with 42K, 66K, 100K and 150 kiloampere. Whereas size 3, which is more than 4000 ampere breaker, is 100 kiloampere and 150 kiloampere performance level. So there are some performance levels higher compared to NT and W, but more or less is exactly the same performances which today we are delivering to the market. In terms of trip unit, so today the nomenclature for the trip unit is based on 2 parameters. One is on the protection type. So like if you are familiar with our ACBs or MCCBs products, the nomenclature starts with 2, 5, 6 or 7. So 2 is, as a reminder, is overload and short circuit. But on short circuit, the time delay is fixed. The TSD is fixed. Then we have 5, which is LSI, overload, short circuit. All current and time is adjustable, and instantaneous only current is adjustable. And 6 is LSIG. All current and time delay is adjustable for all except the instantaneous production. And also there is a 7, which is LSIV, which is very rarely used because this is an embedded earth leakage inside the circuit breaker. So the first digit stands for the protection, the second digit stands for the metering. So in NT&W, the basic standard trip unit is E type, which is the energy type, and then we can upgrade it to P or H with the high-end features with the power quality parameters. So this is how in MasterPact NT&W as our legacy range since last 2.5 decades. So you have E type of a trip unit, you have P type of a trip unit, and H type of a trip units in different versions or different types of a protection. Whereas in MTZ X, you if you had used it or quoted in some project, it's called MicroLogic X. So there is only one version of a trip unit. As I said, it's with a higher features targeting critical applications. So it comes with 2x, 5x, 6x, and 7x. So 2, 5, 6, 7 are the protection part, and X stands for the metering type. So in MicroLogic X of MTZ, it comes with current, voltage, power, energy, frequency, and THD parameters. So total harmonic distortion is embedded. Of course, you can add on individual harmonics and other features with a add-on digital module or a software module to the circuit to the trip unit. Now, when we were introducing with MTZ MicroLogic Active, we kept the format similar to NT&W so that it's easier. At the same time, we have reintroduced again in here MicroLogic A, which is the ammeter. If you are familiar, long back in NT&W, we had A, then E, P, and H. So A was discontinued. There was only E type of a trip unit with energy metering. So which means in MTZ Active, you have A type of a trip unit, which is the standard with the current metering type. But of course, it will deliver all the features which we will discuss in the next few slides. Then there is an E type of a trip unit, which is with the all the parameters what today we are delivering with NT&W MicroLogic E, which is current, voltage, power, energy. On top of that, it also has got frequency parameters. Plus, there are maintenance parameters. For example, contact wear is a standard feature in all the trip units, whether in MTZ MicroLogic Active, whether it's a A-type trip unit or E-type trip unit. So all the trip units has got the maintenance indicator. As a reminder, in the existing range of NT&W, you have to go to MicroLogic P to have those maintenance indicators. Along with that, communication protocols and others are as a standard features. Now, on top of that, continuing our legacy of innovations in MasterPact range of circuit breakers. So in MTZ Active, what we are bringing new to the market, of course, with the new trip units, is the world's first wireless sensor or wireless communication circuit breaker in the market. So which means there is, let's say, if you want to have a communication as per the specs, like a communicable circuit breaker to communicate the trip unit parameters or the maintenance history or so on, or the contact wear and tear. As of today, you have to put a COM port, a BCM behind the trip unit, connect with the cable, then again add a IFM module, give a power supply to everything, and so on. Whereas in MTZ Active, you can directly have a different type of a trip unit called AP or EP. So P actually stands for power tag. So if you heard this word power tag, it's more familiar with the MCBs. So in MCBs, you can put the power tag on top or on the bottom. You can just tag, which is a wireless energy sensor. So in ACBs, in MasterPact MTZ Active, you don't have to add anything. It's just a type of a trip unit we have to change to AP or a EP, which comes with the power tag features. What does it mean? It means if it is a AP, it will have in terms of metering parameters all the current parameters of A, plus it will add on a wireless connectivity, which is with your Bluetooth as well as Zigbee connectivity. So Zigbee is for the communication. Now, how does it communicate? Do I need to add any communication port? No. If you have this AP or a EP type of a trip unit, which adds wireless connectivity to A and E type of a trip unit, so you don't have to do any connections. You just add on a pass gateway in your panel, and it will wirelessly or seamlessly does the connections. So gone are the days you add multiple accessories, cabling, doing loop in, loop out, and then connecting to a gateway. You just put pass 600, and all the AP and EP wireless trip units of MasterPact MTZ Active will communicate wirelessly to pass gateways. The benefit of this architecture is, if you had seen, we have thermal sensors, we have power tag in the MCBs and so other devices. So all these devices also can connect to pass gateway, so that your installation become much more reliable, much more flexible, because you're avoiding all the wirings, and it can directly communicate to pass gateway, which has got embedded drivers for this one. So we have two type of a trip unit: A type, which is the current metering with plus as per the protection like 256, overload, short circuit, and ground fault. E is with the energy metering like current, voltage, power, energy, frequency. Plus A and E also has got maintenance indicators. Let's say the contact wear and tear, the load profile, the per phase, and so on. Top it up, we can add on the wireless connectivity to it. So by the way, A and E also has got wireless, but it has got a NFC, near field communication, which I will discuss in the next few slides, which are mainly for troubleshooting part. So on top of that, AP and EP has got Bluetooth plus a Zigbee connectivity to connect seamlessly with your PAS 600 gateway. So there are four type of trip units: A and E, or if you need wireless connectivity or a communication, just change the trip unit to AP and EP. How to change that, I will show you in the next few slides. So now with MasterPact MTZ, you have a standard type of a trip unit A and E. If you need connectivity, we can have AP and EP wireless connectivity, or you have MasterPact MTZ with Micrologic X, which is with a high-end features like harmonics, under voltage, over voltage, or a reverse power kind of a protections. Does it mean that only the wireless connectivity is an additional features to it? No, of course not. When we are bringing to the market, there was multiple voice of customers with the different, like a panel build from the panel builder, from consultants, from contractor, end users. Multiple feedback was taken, and then we tried to bring, which is adding more value to each of the chain for a project. So for example, all the trip units, whether it's A, E, AP, or EP, comes with the NFC communication. NFC is near field communication, so which means even if there is no power inside the circuit breaker, I can just take my my smartphone and tap it closer to the trip unit, and it can communicate. So which is easier for me to do a troubleshooting, as well as so to know what is the type of the fault, as well as to do the power restoration once I get complete diagnostic. So you don't need a power inside the circuit breaker to connect using the NFC connectivity. This is same like what we use in iOS or Apple devices for Apple Pay, or you tap. Now most of the payments what we do in tapping, so their NFC connectivity is used. Similar is used in MTZ Active. Then as you can see here, the if it's a wireless type, then we will add on the top of a trip unit, it will be green in color. So it will be additional with the Bluetooth connectivity, Bluetooth, so that you can connect with the with our application called the EcoStruxure Power Device, which is mainly for facility management. Again, it's a freemium. That means you can download it from iOS and Android, and it just need a one-time registration. Or if you are already registered in any software, you can use the same credentials, so that you can communicate and you can download the parameters from the breaker using Bluetooth. And plus, the first time in a circuit breaker, to make it a wireless communication, we have added on a Zigbee communication, which can directly connect to a PAS gateway. The strip unit displays now with a color in a color display. The percentage loading for each phase comes in with a color coding. So that means if it is up to 90%, it's in green color. If it exceeds 90%, that means it's tint, or it's a pre-overload. From 90 to 100 it's an amber color, and then more than 100% goes into the red color. So that means for a facility or for a electrician in the electrical room, even from a distance he can know if my phase, if my load is going into the overload zone with a color indication. And of course it comes in the numerical format also. If once the breaker trip on fault, the display will turn red in color, and the QR code will be displayed on that, so that if you scan the QR code, also you will get all the fault diagnostics and also the recommended actions to restore back the breaker, depending on the type of the fault the breaker has tripped. Now there are indication LEDs on the breaker. You have seen it's like for the overload, short circuit, for the different faults. Then there is a pre-alarm and so on. Now to power up these LEDs, there is a battery in the trip unit. So as of today, the battery is on the backside of a breaker. So let's say after 10-15 years, if the battery dries down, to replace a battery, you have to remove the trip unit and then install the battery. So the battery which is powering up the LEDs, not the display LEDs, because display takes the power from the main supply, or if you had given a 24-volt DC. So for the LEDs, the battery, if it is dried down, you can get a warning message on the display, and to change the battery, it's from the front flap of the trip unit. For the traceability, there is a unique identification. I mean, each breaker will have has got a unique serial number for a breaker, so that tomorrow whenever you have any after sales service or other, you can directly quote this number and it can be easily tracked. Another challenge which we faced in the past, not only Schneider but most of the manufacturers, is by the setting of a breaker. Now today, what we can set is in terms of slots. Let's say for a overload or a short circuit, you can set between, let's say for a short circuit, this is a 1600 amps breaker. You can set it like 1.5 times, 2.5 or 3 times. But sometimes as per the fault calculation study or as per the selectivity or the coordination, the consultant needs it to be set not at 3200 but at 3100 or let's say 3150. Now today, because it's between the ranges, you cannot set in between. So thanks to the digitization, what we are bringing it. So as a first step, yes, you can set it, let's say to 3 times of the rated current, which is 3200, and then we have an option to do a fine tuning. Now this fine tuning can be done within 1 ampere. So I can set it to 3199 or 3198. So whichever rating you want, it can be exactly set to that particular rating as per the recommendation from the consultant or whoever is doing the design or the selectivity study for the entire installation. On top of the trip unit, in terms of LEDs, we have make it in much more user-friendly way. So there is a ready LED which continuously blink. This comes from the legacy of compact NSX MCCBs back in 2008 till now. So what does the ready LED indicates? Like whenever it glows, it means that the microprocessor is working properly, the CTs are connected, all. So whenever every blink of this ready LED, it checks the complete continuity of the microprocessor, but the CTs, the toroid and all the accessories. And then there is a status LED which is added new. So again, depending on pre-alarm or post-tripping, it will change the color. And another new feature which we are bringing to the market is ERMS, Energy Reduction Maintenance Setting. This is mainly for the end users, for an operator who is working there. So in case if there is an arc flash in the panel, and if there is an operator working in the electrical room, and if this ERMS is activated, the breaker will instantly get into the tripping zone, and it will trip instantly, whatever is the setting done to the breaker. So we will discuss on this ERMS also. This ERMS, as of now, some of the breakers do have, like for example, MTZ Micrologic X has got ERMS feature, but it's optional. You have to add on a software module. Plus, this feature is only activated or deactivated based on the human interface. Let's say a operator is in the electrical room, he has to activate this function. Now, since safety is not an optional for Schneider Electric, so all MTs are active, whether it's A, E, AP or EP type of a trip unit, by default comes with the ERMS feature. So ERMS is a standard feature inside the circuit breaker, plus to activate or deactivate is from the front of the trip unit. So you open the flap, you can activate. The trip unit display will turn blue, which means it's in the ERMS mode. Uh, for other different breakers, first of all, you have to add multiple accessories and softwares to get ERMS, and then you have to add another hardware switch to activate or deactivate this function. But here it's much more user friendly. Open the flap, activate. Once the operator finishes work in the electrical room, while leaving, he again press the ERMS button and the breaker will go back to its original settings. So this is the ERMS button, and the display in ERMS mode will be blue in color. Plus this ERMS LED will be glow, so to indicate that the breaker is in the ERMS mode. Of course, for the protection settings, you can go through this tab, or if you want to directly access the protection setting, you can open this flap and you can press the button inside this flap, and it will go to the IDMTL curve or the overload, short circuit and instantaneous or ground fault, depending on the type of a trip unit, the protections. Now, there can be a requirement that, okay, if for this protections you want to avoid unauthorized access to some people, of course there is a latch, you can put a padlock, or there is another option, you can put a user defined 6-digit password so that everyone can monitor it, but if you want to change it, or you need that particular password, so that also provision is available. Now again, one more common thing, like as you know, in Gulf, most of the panel FAT, we have to do a secondary injection of a circuit breaker. And one of the key input from the partners was the cable, which today we use for secondary injection to connect to the trip unit. Sometimes, like over a period of time, after you do like a couple of projects, sometimes the pin can get broken because you have to use it for multiple breakers in a single project. On top of that, you need to connect it to a test kit, that a hardware module, and that hardware module is connected to a laptop. So to make it much more efficient, what we have done is the test port of a breaker is made simpler. We had gone on USB-C type, which is a standard connector which we use with our smartphone or many other tabs and other devices. So this USB-C is there as a test port for the breaker. So that means you don't need a special cable, you don't need a special testing kit. You just connect your USB cable to the trip unit and to your laptop. Open your EPC or EcoStruxure Power Commission software. So if you have, of course, for configuration, for settings, you can directly do it. Or if you have to do a secondary injection, then there is a license of EPC, which if you have on your laptop, then you can also do the secondary injection. And of course, there are much more features on EPC which we can do it, but the connectivity is made much more simpler. You can just use a standard USB-C type cable between your laptop and the trip unit. So it's a power packed trip unit with many of those features embedded into it. So as a reminder, it comes as a standard with NFC type connectivity or near field communication. USB-C again is a standard one, and if it is a AP or a EP kind of a trip unit, it will have a Bluetooth or a Zigbee communication protocol. Does it mean that it will have only wireless? No, we will also have our legacy accessories which we use, like IFM, Modbus module, or IFE, Ethernet module, IO, and so on. So all those modules also will be there for MTZ Active modules. But again, those are add-on. This one, what we are talking about, wireless communication, is a native to electronic trip unit, and it can seamlessly connect to PAS gateway. So this is in terms of let's say of BOQ optimization, in terms of integration, in terms of doing the panel connections. This is much more efficient. Having said that, legacy accessories are also there. In terms of trip unit, so these are the different scenarios. One of the scenario is, let's say the breaker is off, the LED, all the LEDs are off, as long as we have not supplied a 24-volt DC power supply. Second option is the breaker is in on condition, so the ready LED will be blinking, indicating that the breaker is ready for protection or a next operation. In case the breaker has gone in overload more than 90%, so it's still not overload, but it's a pre-overload scenario. So in that, the status will be amber and L will be indicated. That means it's from 90% to 100% of the loading. So you can take any preventive actions to avoid any tripping of a breaker. Then let's say the breaker still goes more than 100%, let's say 120% of the load for 30 minutes or 20 minutes as per the tripping curve of the breaker and the breaker trip. So the LED, ready LED will be off because the breaker is in the trip condition. The status, it will indicate, that means the breaker has tripped and on what fault it has tripped. So overload, short circuit, instantaneous ground fault, all those LEDs will be there. In case if you had activated the ERMS mode, the ERMS LED will be on. Now the QR code on the breaker, even the breaker has tripped, you can just scan the QR code and you get all the informations of the fault. So all the troubleshooting information is available, and you can also proceed to the next step, like say restoration of the power. So again, this is the first time you have a QR code displayed on the ear circuit breaker, which can give all the fault diagnostic or all the details. This is the application which I was mentioning called EPD, EcoStruxure Power Device. So this is freely available in iOS platform, in Android platform. You can download it on your smartphone. Is this the app only for ACBs? No, this is for multiple other LV products from Schneider, including some medium voltage relays also. So as you know, like we have one laptop based software, which is the EPC, EcoStruxure Power Commission. So as the name suggests, commission is for doing the settings, for configuring the breaker for different, let's say, for example, if you're doing a peak demand, to set a window of a sliding window, if you want, let's say, to do the protection settings, you can do that. For example, instead of, let's say, connecting to a line to the top, load at the bottom, in case in some of the application, it's the reverse, load is at the top, line is at the bottom. So your the sign of a power will be negative. So to make it reverse, you can change the power sign. So multiple other things you can do via EPC, EcoStruxure Power Commission. On top of that, let's say, for example, you have a wireless trip unit of MTZ Active connected to the PAS gateway, and you want to do, let's say, communication testing with ACB, MTZ Active, with NSX breaker, with Acti9 MCBs, with the power meter and so on. So you can just connect your laptop to your gateway, and all the communication devices you can see in EPC. And then you can do a communication test so that it can test whether all the communication, wiring, everything is done properly. So that is also another functionality in EPC, to do a communication testing, and it gives a output as a report. So if you have a system integrator for BMS or a SCADA or power energy management system, so that report can be handed over to them. One more feature which we have brought particularly for MTZ Active to start with is, today some project is asking, let's say, a total coordination or a discrimination between a breaker and a downstream circuit breaker. Of course, we have the charts called as a complementary technical guide with all the permutation combinations of income or outgoing, like ACBs, MCCBs, MCBs, and so on. Now, in EPC, we are bringing a new functionality where you can test this protocol. So it's not only via table or via IC certificate to say that this discrimination is there. We can also do testing with the EPC, but as of now, this feature is started with MTZ Active. In future, we will add on other circuit breakers also, so you can test MTZ active as an incomer, or MTZ active as an outgoing, or MTZ active as an incomer and NSMCCB as an outgoing. So this is again an industry first, where the manufacturer is not only giving the discrimination tables or the test certificate, but you can live test the combinations as per the selections. And of course, if you have to do a secondary injection testing, then there is a paid license. Now, if it is a facility manager, he doesn't have to do all these functions. So for that, targeting them, we have EPD app, EcoStructure Power Device. You download it. If you are registered on any software of Schneider, let's say My Schneider or any portal, you can use the same credential first time and you have the app ready. You can just go and tap the here on the next to the trip unit, and it will communicate wirelessly to all the data from the circuit breaker. Similarly, you have a Bluetooth connectivity. You can also do a Bluetooth to Bluetooth pairing for getting more data from the trip unit. So these are the different screens where you can have. So you can connect it with NFC, you can connect it with the Bluetooth, or if you are using Android devices, there is an option, the USB-C type, the test port of the breaker, you can connect it with your Android phones for a USB connections. You can, once you connect, you get a health status parameter like a contact wear, how many operations the breaker has done, and so on. And after that, you can do some settings, so you can do a settings, you can do monitor the measurement parameters. If you want to download, you can download it. If you want to send it as an email to some supervisor, you can do it. You want to add it to your cloud, you can do that one. Protection settings are there. Protection settings is monitoring. If you want to change the setting, then you need an admin password. And also, if you want to limit this function, there is an option to limit the change of a protection settings. Maintenance indicators you can have, like contact wear, which is now a standard feature throughout the breaker, load profile, and so on. So as I said, this is the first wireless ACB on the market. So similar to other wireless devices, what we have, for example, we have heat tag. There is a thermal sensors on the panel. Power tag, you can put it into the circuit breaker. We have an OF, wireless OF for compact NSX circuit breaker, where you can put it and it will send the status on off or trip indication wirelessly to the gateway. So on top will be sitting the PAS 600, and it will communicate wirelessly with the power tag of MCBs, auxiliaries, thermal sensors, and with MTZ active trip unit. So which means it's a seamless integration. It's easier for the applications to do it. On top of that, by end of this year, we will be also coming with a retrofit trip unit of MTZ of MicroLogic Active, which can be installed on NTNW install base. So which means, let's say you have a standard application where you have MasterPact NTNW, maybe 10, 15 or 20 years. Now you want to retrofit or new features. Of course, if they have the budget, they can change the moving part or complete breaker depending on the feasibility. But if there is a budget limitation, you will have a retrofit trip unit, not the standard trip unit, but a retrofit trip unit, which can be installed on NTNW breaker. Now the advantage here is, if you put a wireless trip unit on NTNW, it not only get this digital parameters, ERMS, and so on, but on top of that, it also gets a connectivity. So that means without adding any cable, anything, you just add on a PAS gateway. It will add on not only the high-end trip unit with power measurement, frequency, with ERMS, contact wear, plus also wireless connectivity to the PAS gateway. So for brownfield applications, it's much more important features. So this is a demonstration like how the ZigBee communicates to the PAS gateway, and if you have the IP address of the PAS, you put on the HTML pages, you can get the all the details. Or if you have a software, let's say a PME, EcoStructure Power Monitoring Expert, or a Power SCADA of Schneider, it has got embedded drivers for MTZ Active. EPC, EcoStructure Power Commission, the same license today what you have for NTNW or compact NSX is applicable for MTZ Active. just need a cable USB-C type, connect to your trip unit to your laptop, and the same EPC you can use it, which today you will have the license. So you don't need a hardware in between. Coming back to the part number now, MTZ Active is with the product selector. So I will go through this. Now, once you select, let's say in the product selector, it will by default have a meaningful part number. Meaningful means it will indicate like MTZ1, that is size 1, MTZ2, MTZ3, 08, or the type rating of a breaker, the fault capacities, it's H1, H2, or depending on the applications. The type of a trip unit, it is 2X for MTZ MicroLogic X, or 2A or 2E for MTZ Active, 3-pole, and so on. So this will be the standard one. Plus, you can, if you add on motor, coil, like MCH is motor, MX is closing opening coil, XF is closing coil, MN for under voltage coil, and so on. And the part number can be developed. Don't worry, I will show you one Excel format in terms of the nomenclature of the part number for a easy reference part, and also we will check. I think if we have time, we will quickly go through the product selector part also. So this one you can directly have from the product selector the part number, which comes with that bill of material, and the same is displayed on the packaging label or the invoice. So ERMS, which I had mentioned, is a new feature which we are bringing to the market, considering the safety of the operator. Again, the facility guys or the maintenance or the electricians who are working there. So what does it mean is, in case if the operator is there in the electrical room, he just go open the flap on the trip unit, press the ERMS button, the display will turn blue in color. That means its ERMS mode is activated. So that unfortunately, while he is working on, let's say, a capacitor panel, UPS panel, or any other thing maintenance he is doing, or some other work he is doing in the electrical room, and suddenly there is an arc flash. Thanks to this ERMS mode, the breaker will not wait for the protection settings what you have set, like the time delay on TSD or ground fault and so on. Breaker instantaneously go to the minimum setting and it will trip the breaker, so that the impact of the arc flash is minimal on the operator who is working in the vicinity. So it's much more safer for them. And while, let's say, after the operator finishes work in the electrical room, while leaving, he will just press the button and the ERMS mode is deactivated. Now, why the display is turning blue is so that to indicate that the breaker is still in the ERMS mode till the time you don't press this button. Can this be done wirelessly with some other things? Yes, we can think of it. There is an options for that also, but we have still kept it manual human intervention, because basically this protection is required whenever an operator is walking into the electrical room or walking out from the electrical room. So entering and exit. So that's why, since the human presence will be there, we keep it that he has to activate or deactivate. But for that, you don't have to add on a hardware switch or other. It's a simple button on the trip unit. Selectivity, as I mentioned, this is again a first for a circuit breaker in the electrical market, that you can check the selectivity using the EPC software between MTZ Active and the downstream breaker. Maintenance indicator, you can do a battery replacement, you have a contact wear and tear, you can do a maintenance scheduling, like after 1 year or 2 years, there will be a display on your application EPD, which will come that breaker has seen this operation and this maintenance to be done. If it is 5 years later, the maintenance, what all maintenance to be done and how to do it, can it be done easily, or you need a service engineer? So all those details comes in this maintenance schedule. Trip unit changing. So today we don't allow, let's say for example, if you have ordered 800 amps breaker with MicroLogic 2A of MTZ Active, and you have ordered 1250 with 2E. Now because of 5E, now because of design change, you want to change the trip unit between this. Now today with NTNW, since it's very delicate in terms of the pin installation, we don't allow, and plus it's not easier for installation. So here we have make it much more easier for the installation. So that means if you have to swap the trip unit between, let's say, this breaker to this breaker from 2 to 5 and 5 this to 2, you can do it by yourself. We have to make it much more rigid for the changing of a trip unit. Having said that, if you need a switch disconnector, don't just remove the trip unit. It doesn't become a switch disconnector. For that, we have a dedicated HA type breaker as per IEC 60947-3. So as a reminder, a circuit breaker cannot be changed to switch disconnector. It is a totally a different breaker. Even for us, it comes from the France factory. Or if it's a switch disconnector, it cannot be changed to a breaker. So both are different blocks as per the IEC standards. In terms of manufacturing, it's coming from the same factory called MasterPact. It's near Grenoble in France, so where we have to source from MasterPact NTNW. The same factory MTZ Active Breaker is also coming. Product selector, we have the option. I will show you. Okay, since we have few times, so basically it's easier for upgradation, for adding like ERMS, wireless connectivity. Selection is simple. Diagnostic, different maintenance parameters as we had mentioned. A quick comparison outlook. So you have NTNW, you have MicroLogic X of MTZ and MicroLogic Active. I will just point out the differentials. So current rating wise, performance, as I mentioned, is same. Only one is the 65 kA, let's say in NW, has become 66 kA, whether it's with MicroLogic X or MicroLogic Active. Here you start with E-type trip unit, and then you have P and H as a high-end trip units, which is basically a energy as a standard. And if you go with the high-end trip unit H, which is with a very high features, comes with a harmonics. In X, you have up to THD, total harmonic distortion, and if you need individual like odd order, even order harmonics, you can add on the software. Whereas for Active, it can be either A, which is energy, or E, which is for the E-type, and frequency is a standard for E-type of a trip unit. Communication, there is no wireless in this. You can have wired with a Modbus or Ethernet. In MicroLogic X, you have NFC and Bluetooth as a wireless, and wired you can have Modbus, Ethernet plus IEC 61850. Generally, if you want to do a substation automation. Whereas in MTZ Active, you not only have NFC and Bluetooth plus Zigbee also for connectivity with a pass gateway, and wired is a Modbus and Ethernet. So dimension wise, in let's say accessories is the similar one. So as an summary of the features of a product, so short video on that. So as it mentioned, MTZ Active is ready to act. I will just take few minutes more. I guess your screen is still visible. So for this circuit breaker, as I said, the part numbers, if you can see this Excel. If you need, please connect with your account manager or sales. We can share you the part number list. Now this is not the part number in the system. This is basically a system generated code. Now how this is generated, this is from the product selector, but for you, you don't have to go to product selector and do all the combinations. For the standard one, we have it. So in case of 2A, if you need 2E, you can just change from this 2A of a breaker to 2E type. So that way it's much more flexible. So if you want, instead of H2, H1 type breaker, so as per that, you can have you can derive the part numbers. Of course, if you need with the communication connectivity, then you for AP or EP, whatever is the type of a trip unit, you just add -W to the end and it becomes a wireless type. Same thing to show you on the product selector. So I guess you are familiar. If you are not familiar, just go on Google, type product selector, or go to our Schneider Gulf website, ac.com/AE. On that, you can go to support, and in support, you have a product selection tab. Inside that, you have a product selector. So you just click onto that. It will open this, say launch product selector. You have some ranges. We can go to low voltage products, circuit breaker, and here you have EasyPact MVS, MTZ Active, MTZ, NTNW. So in this, if you go to MTZ Active, which one you want, size 1, size 2, size 3? Let's assume I want size 2 breaker. Now inside that, there are some standard products. So the product code, what I was referring you, will come in the top. So let's say I want a 4-pole breaker with the neutral position, let's say left side, 2500 ampere with a rating plug also 2500, because sometimes let's say initially the load is low, you can set a lower sensor plug. Trip unit you want with LI, LSI or LSIG, let's say LSI. Energy metering. Now here you can select you want a wireless communication. Yes. So the W will be added for wireless, or I will say no, I want without communication. On the right side in solution, the part number will keep on adding for the breaker. So I want a H type break, let's say 66K breaker, fixed type, drought with chassis, which is our typical drought breaker. Or you can have a drought with chassis, which means you can order the chassis separately and only the moving part of a breaker separately. Let's say drought with chassis and type of terminal, horizontal, vertical, front. Now with this particular makes my standard breaker without any accessories or other. So this will be the part number. Now the same thing, what we will give is in the combined Excel format. So which means, let's say if you want this breaker and you want to see, let's say you want the parameter, you can go here. There is an option to load the configuration. Sorry, this is for MTZ1, which I had put. So it will go to the MTZ1 type and it will display all the parameters. Now, if you want to add on the accessories to this, I can add, let's say, a door frame extrusion. Accordingly, the part number will keep on adding. So for Schneider sales, if you want to give this part number, you can just copy here and send to your account manager or to your sales colleagues from Schneider. So we have this depository for the part numbers. Please connect with your sales colleague and we will share with you. So that's all from my side. I think I have taken a couple of more minutes than the schedule. If you have any queries, we can discuss, or let me check if I can find. So are there any queries, any questions?
I don't see any questions here, but I think we've surpassed already the time for the webinar, Krishna. So if you have any questions, everyone, you can reach out to your sales and they can relate to Krishna and we can come back to you with all the answers you need. Thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar, and thank you, Krishna, so much.
Thank you all.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, Omar.